Hello, and thank you for joining our webinar on our latest release of Storyboard, Storyboard 8.2. Today, I will take you through a brief overview of who Crank is and what our UI development storyboard framework is, followed by highlights of our latest 8.2 release of Storyboard and a demonstration of those enhancements. I am Scott. I am the product marketing manager here at Crank for Storyboard, and we'll be joined by Evan, who is the lead developer for Storyboard. If you haven't heard of Crank before this presentation, I can guarantee you that there's a good chance that you've used a product running an HMI that was built using our GUI development software Storyboard at some point in time. Crank is both a software and services company that has been used in a wide range of verticals from wearables to industrial devices. This means that you can leverage Storyboard to build a UI yourself, or leverage Crank's team of GUI development experts to help your organization with everything from the designing of the UI to testing of the UI, or to completely building the UI from the ground up for you. Storyboard was created to help make embedded GUI development a more efficient process for embedded developers. Whether it's for commercial or consumer-based devices, Storyboard can help you overcome the challenges of delivering an exceptional and sophisticated user experience for your product. So, what sets Storyboard apart from other products on the market? Well, it is its unique decoupled development architecture. With a distinct separation between the front-end UI design and the back-end logic development, developers and designers can collaboratively work together to develop, enhance, and test the UI application without disrupting each other's process, thereby helping remove the issues that are typically associated with traditional UI development. The GUI development workflow of Storyboard is easy to use, making it quickly to be adopted by all development levels. It embraces the design iteration process, making it a core part of the overall development process, not only saving you valuable time when developing, but also creating embedded GUI applications that are optimized for the hardware that you choose and designed to provide exceptional user experiences for your products. Now, let's dive into the core set of enhancements being introduced within Storyboard 8.2. The first enhancement I want to discuss is the refinements made to the Storyboard's development toolbar. So, like functions such as Storyboard's design tool file import and file report in functions, have been grouped together into a single icon grouping with a drop-down menu to provide you with a simplified and intuitive experience when developing embedded UIs. Additionally, we have added a history of recently used functions to certain menus, making it quicker and easier to access them, and Evan will cover this momentarily. The next enhancement to Storyboard is that we brought back the I/O connector into the main development perspective, making it quicker and easier to gain access to it. In addition to this, we've also added the ability to have a floating ejection window automatically launch when using the I/O connector, making it more streamlined to simulate the application use in a simulated actual environment. Next, to help ensure that your products that leverage battery power can be as efficient as they can be, we've added low power options into our actions menu. Again, Evan will cover this in greater detail during his demonstration of the 8.2 enhancements. And finally, the last main enhancement that I want to make you aware of is that we've introduced a new option for exporting the UI application onto MCU-based devices as a binary file. This means that the application can start up faster and requires less resources to do so, since there's no need for parsing that data at runtime. So that covers the main aspects that I want to kind of bring your attention to. So at this point, I'm going to hand things over to Evan to show you these enhancements in action. Evan, take it away.
All right, thank you, Scott. So as Scott mentioned, I'm going to take you through some of the new user-facing features in Storyboard 8.2. So I'm already here in the main Storyboard perspective. And if you're familiar with this perspective at all, one thing you might notice immediately is the main toolbar. is a lot more compact than it used to be. We've consolidated some of the actions in this toolbar to clean it up a little and add a few new workflow improvements. So the simulator and export configurations are both now in a drop-down, which you can access up here. But in addition to that, we have also added a history, a launch history in this drop-down, so you're able to see previous launches easily and rerun previous launches more easily as well through this drop-down. So, and you can also, of course, access the configurations, which haven't changed, except that they're just in the drop-down. And this is the same with the export configurations as well. So you just get a history of all your previous launches and can easily run through them as you want. We've also consolidated the content import actions, which used to just be all there on the main toolbar, but they're now all in this dropdown. So you have all your content import actions in this dropdown, and they again function the same as they always did, except that they're just accessible in a slightly different way. The next thing I want to highlight is the I/O connector. So the I/O connector tab has existed for a while. It's a convenient tool to allow you to inject events easily into a simulated application. However, we've brought it back into the main perspective, where before it was a bit more hidden, to make it easier to use. And as well, we've added an option in the simulator configuration to automatically open a floating I/O connector tab when you launch the app. So by doing this, it just simplifies the workflow, makes it a lot easier to use. So when you launch your app, the I/O connector tab is already ready to go instead of you having to go back into Designer to use it. And you can start injecting your events or do whatever you want through it. So it just improves the workflow using the I/O connector and hopefully opens you up to using it because it is a useful tool. I also want to talk about some changes to our actions. Firstly, some small updates to our Lua action. So if I go into the action creation wizard and try to create a new Lua action, any existing functions will have their descriptions show up in this area to provide extra context to you to make sure that you're selecting the right function. So these descriptions come straight from the Lua file. So if I go into my Lua file, as long as you've documented all your functions using correct Lua documentation syntax, Storyboard will pull the description of the function and populate it in the wizard, help you navigate through all your functions, make sure you're selecting the right one. Also, if I want to add a new Lua function, Storyboard now gives you a little bit more flexibility in choosing where that function is going to live. So rather than just sending it straight into the default file, you can choose to add it to an existing file. And you can also choose to create a brand new Lua file for this function to live in. So, for example, if I wanted it in a subdirectory away from the others, you can do that easily. The file will be created and your function will go in there. So just a few more conveniences when creating Lua functions. We've also added a new action in Storyboard 8.2, the low power mode actions. So the low power mode actions are going to provide with a little bit of extra control over SB Engine execution and what SB Engine is actually doing at any given time. So with the low power mode action, it'll allow you to pause all active timers associated with animations or with any other events that create timers, and just reduce the amount of work that SB Engine is doing and ultimately reduce the CPU load that SB Engine is under for a given period of time. So if I go back into the action wizard and I look, I'm going to find the low power enter action and subsequently the low power exit to enter and exit low power mode. So again, when you enter low power mode, that's going to cause SB Engine to pause all running timers, anything associated with animations or other events, which will subsequently stop any data changes triggered by those timers and any redraws that would be triggered by those data changes. And again, the idea is to reduce as much as possible SB Engine's CPU overhead to as close to zero as it can be. And then when you're ready, you can trigger a low power exit, and then all those timers will resume from wherever they stopped, and you'll go kind of more back into a normal execution state. So to clarify, entering low power it'll pause any timers that are currently running. What it will not do, however, is shut down the event listener. So even in low power mode, SB Engine will still be listening for events. So in conjunction with these actions, you will also have to prevent any of your external processes that are trying to inject events into SB Engine from doing so. Otherwise, SB Engine will still be processing events during this time. However, because SB Engine doesn't generate events for itself, as long as those external processes also stop sending events, combine that with the timer pauses, SB Engine itself will not be doing anything, essentially, when it's in low power mode. And then, yeah, like I said, once you exit, timers restart, and things go back to normal. So that's the new low power mode. The next thing I want us to talk about is our new binary gap feature. So this one is related to MCU execution specifically. So if you're running on an MCU, when you go to export your application to a C header, you're now going to have the option to export the model as binary instead of XML. What it'll do is it'll essentially parse the XML into the runtime binary on the design side. So rather than having the engine parse the XML at runtime, you can extract that process out to the export step, and subsequently you'll save all the time that you need to do that at runtime, save the memory overhead, save the CPU overhead of starting your application. So if I run that and then we take a look at the result, you'll notice rather than getting a condensed XML string of hex numbers, we now are exporting the actual data as the engine needs it to be in so it can interpret it. And again, so what this means is at runtime on your initial MCU startup, The engine won't have to do any parsing. It'll be able to skip that step entirely, which will lead to a quicker startup time with lower memory overhead and lower CPU overhead. This header file itself, though, functions the exact same way. So you include it in your project the exact same way as you would before. There's no changes there. It's just that on the engine side, it gets all the data it needs without having to parse it, which is a nice improvement to performance when you're running on an MCU. So those are a few of the new 8.2 features that I wanted to highlight. So I'll send it back to Scott at this point to continue. Thanks.
All right, thanks for that, Evan. So what are the next steps? You can give 8.2 a try for yourself. It is now available as a free trial download for you to try out all these great new features and functions. Also, we have available for you demo images that you can download that are ready to be loaded onto the hardware that you're testing. So that way you can kick the graphical performance tires on that hardware to see what it's capable of doing. Also, if you're stuck or maybe you don't have the resources to help you out, you can supplement those resources with our team of GUI experts. So reach out to our team of experts using the sales@cranksoftware.com email address to find out how we can help you out today. So thanks for taking time out of your day to learn a little bit more about Crank's Storyboard 8.2. We look forward to accelerating your development process for building exceptional user experiences for your customers. We look forward to you joining us in our next webinar. Have a great day.